baliktad. Natuma na sa balay, guys.
Even predict that Typhoon Uwan will come northwest to make landfall the coast of Aurora or Isabela provinces late Sunday to early Monday. Tropical cyclone will sustain at the speed of 185 km per hour on a car or classified as a super typhoon in the Philippines and destination, adapted many years to emphasizing the urgency isolated the more extreme weather events. As Typhoon Uwan approached with wide branch to strong winds of rain, several eastern cities to villages were left without power. Authority in northern province that will be hit to affected on Typhoon Uwan previously announced the clear shooting school to most government officials on Monday and Tuesday. As the storm subsided, the faithful resumed their prayers, undaunted by temporary interruption. For many, the storm helped to develop spiritual significance with the sound views and the taste of a fear, a reminder of the powerful of God. Social media was filling the post a reflection of the awe-inspiring scene of the Kaaba standing film amid spurring winds of a wind. There many experienced gratitude for the storm pace it caused without causing major harm. The storm of the Kaaba is a reminder of nature unpredictability, but it also highlights the resilience of a both sacred site to the millions of worshippers who visit each year. While the storm have many momentary disrupted to peaceful rituals and that take place around the Kaaba, it also reaffirmed steadfast of the faith of drove people from the corner to global this reverent location. Typhoon Uwan, which could cover two-thirds in the southeastern Asian archipelago, nation of more than 6,500 islands for rain-it winds 1,600 kilometers, is approaching for the Pacific Ocean. While the Philippines is still reeling from the destruction caused by the typhoon Kalmegi, which struck last week. On Tuesday, Kalmegi claimed the lives at least 224 people in central provinces of the island, then hit Vietnam, where was at least 5 more than people died. This storm was the strongest event record in Asia this year. Typhoon Uwan, with the winds up to 185 km per hour of gusts up to 213 km per hour, was detected. A government forecast before noon on Sunday local time over coastal waves near the town of Pandan in the eastern province Catanduanes. The area is already experiencing heavy rain and thick fog that limit visibility, ever before the typhoon make landfall. Philippines is once again facing to devastation impact of extreme weather as a torrential monsoon rain worsened to tropical storm Uwan triggered catastrophic flooding across large areas of Luzon and Viga. Over 75,000 people have been displaced with thousands of trapped submerged homes as rivers burst their banks and the urban drainage system collapsed under the pressure. In Metro Manila, relentless rain over the past 5 days turned avenues like Espana Boulevard of its into rivers. Schools, government official and financial institutions were forced to suspend operations. At least 13 cities decided states and calamity. Inducting Manila, San Metro and Motors were left without 1.5 meters in some neighborhoods. According to Pagasa, the rainfall total in parts of central Luzon reached over 400 mm while wild gusts and going in 75 km an hour in coastal areas. Climate experts point warning to the future temperatures in West Pacific and the English. Nearly a million people were evacuated from their homes in the Philippines as the country braced for another powerful storm days after the typhoon killed more than 20 people. The storm named Typhoon Uwan began on the ridge in the northeastern Philippines on a Sunday, even before it's expected to make landfall, knocking out power and prompted the Meteorological Service to declare a high-risk of life-threatening conditions in some areas of the country. The Philippines is bracing for the second major typhoon in 2 weeks. Experts predict that Super Typhoon Uwan will reach for the archipelago late Sunday or nearly Monday, bringing winds of 185 km per hour. Super Typhoon Uwan, the largest storm in the threatening the Philippines this year, began battering the country's northeast coast before making landfall on Sunday. Power outage for forcing to evacuate nearly a million people. Philippines Defense Minister Gilberto Teodoro Jr. issued warning to make people in affected areas, urging them to evacuate dangerous village before it was too late. The Philippines is struggling with the severe flooding caused in increasing rain, a national disaster that is agriculture country and the passing of increasing frequency and intensifying. The torrential downpour exacerbated by the unusual monsoon season and tropical storm had led to widespread flooding in many provinces. Thousands of families were forced to their homes and seek shelter to evacuation centers and key infrastructure including roads, bridges, schools and severely damaged. The hardest hit region are in the high alert at the Luzon, where floodwaters have inundated entire communities. Rescue operations are ongoing, but the scale of the destruction has stretched the local authority to the limit. The country's National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council issued a warning and advised residents in low-lying and coastal area to remain vigilant. Evacuations were carried out in many regions before the water reached the peak up, and many people remain trapped at flood levels of those faster of expected. The floods have disrupted power supply, damaged across groups and parts of country without access to clean up water in a rural area. Rice paddies, the farmland crucial in a country's agriculture production, have been flooded, raising concerns about the flood security in the coming month.
Oh God.
The wind sounded like a foreign train. Everything was shaking, said Mariela de la Cruz, and the residents of Catanduanes, who spent the night paralyzing their roofs wouldn't blown off. According to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, more than 18,000 people were forced to leave their homes. Entire villages in low-lying area and Pangasinan and Isabela remain flooded, for several rivers have burst their banks, cutting off access to remain continuous. Authorities have confirmed 6 deaths, mostly due to landslides and flash floods, and dozens of people remain missing. Rescue teams supported by the military are urging inflatable boats to reach residents to remain trapped. Schools and government forced to central Luzon are closed due to flights from the Nivelle Aqua International Airport in Manila have been suspended due to dangerous crosswinds. The Department of Agriculture estimated significant groups damage of rice and cornfields and flooded weeks before harvest. Rescue teams and inflatable boats have been working around the clock, navigating narrow streets and rescue stranded residents, including the elderly and the children. Infrastructure damaged widespread landslides and Viga provinces blocking key highways while prompting to North Luzon Expressway were temporarily impossible. Power outage affected more than 16 households, and water supply were cut off in low-lying communities due to contamination concerns. President Ferdinand Macron has called to immediate national response, mobilized military and emergency service are pledging government assistance to displaced families. Local officials warned to with a saturated soil and a more rain expected to risk additional floods and landslides is remaining high. Climate scientists are again raising alarm that is warning ocean temperatures in the Pacific influence stronger to more than erratic monsoon system. As the Philippines recover at least disaster underscoring the growing vulnerability of island nation to extreme weather and changing climate. Relentless monsoon rain have triggered widespread flooding across the Philippines, displacing thousands of submerged entire neighborhoods underwater. It what officials are calling one of the most intense weather events in the year. Multiple provinces, including Metro, Manila, Pampanga, Bulacan, and other parts of the Philippines, have been inundated after the days of continuous rainfall. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geological, and Atmospheric Severe Administration reported that over 300 mm of rain fell in just 28 hours, more than half of a typical monthly average. The downpour intensified by southwestern monsoon and further enhanced tropical storm Uwan caused rivers to overflow and drainage system to fail. In Quezon City, west deep floodwaters turned major floods into rivers, paralyzed transport, and prompted authorities to suspend classes to work in government officials. In Balkan, over 20,000 people were evacuated from the flood from Bringlands on the Uwan River's breaching the banks. The National Disaster Risk Reduction of Management Council confirmed at least 5 fatalities, with several other injured or missing.
Und tschüss. Ach du.
Uban in 15th tropical cyclone in Philippines in 2025 brought moderate and heavy rain and strong winds to main area in Luzon and Viga. It made landfall 6 times, first in Typhoon East Salmon late on Tuesday, September 25, that is severe tropical storm twice Most Bay, twice Romblon, and once in the eastern Midro on Friday, September 26. The southwestern monsoon to habit is also affecting several provinces to western side of the country. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geological, and Astronomical Service Administration was warning the public of danger, including flooding, landslides, and storm surge. According to the Disaster Management Agency and provincial offices, the storm knocked down power lines and the central eastern provinces' tropical trees and power plant, caused flooding and minor landslide to fallen roofs and houses and grandstands. 2 villages were killed, the fallen trees and collapsing central wall, the feed drove in San Bernardo, Rafael Alexander Paul, and the Civil Defense Office. He said 7 villagers died mainly due to flash floods and at least 13 others are missing, mostly fishermen who went out the sea before the storm hit. Residents sought a refuge on the rooftops and cars floated through the flooded streets as the typhoon Kalmarki battered the central Philippines, killed at least 2 people. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes due to the powerful storm which made landfall shortly before midnight on Monday. The 20th tropical cyclone to hit the Philippines this year was moving westward to 25 km/h that Tuesday and was forecast to begin moving away from the western parts of the archipelago toward the southern China Sea by Wednesday morning. People on rooftops are asking for help. Ron Romas, spokesman for Cuba Island, told APP by telephone, adding that the evacuation centers have been flooded. Hundreds of people still live in tense homes after 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck in the island in late September were forcibly evacuated in their own safety, he said. Rafael Alejandro, Deputy Administrator of Civil Defense Office, told a local radio that 347,000 people have been evacuated for the typhoon path. The Philippines is triggered with severe flooding caused by increasing rains, a natural disaster that is agriculture country the facing of increasing frequency and intensifying. The torrential downpour, exacerbated by unusual monsoon season and tropical storm, have led to widespread flooding in many places. Thousands of families were forced to their homes and seek shelters in the evacuation centers, and their key infrastructure, including roads, bridges, and schools, were severely damaged. The hardest hit region are on the island of Luzon, where floodwaters have inundated entire communities. Rescue operations are ongoing, but the scale of the destruction has scheduled local authorities to the limit. The country's National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council has issued a warning advised residents in low-lying and coastal areas to remain vigilant. Evacuations were carried out in many regions before the water reached a peak, but many people remain trapped as flood level rose faster than expected. The flood have disrupted power supplies, damaged crops, and left parts of the country without cases clean water. In rural area, rice paddies, a farmland circulated on country's agriculture production, have been flooded. In the cities such as capital Manila, traffic comes to standstill and businesses are closed as the people stretch to supplies on the flooded. Meteorologists point to climate change as an important factor in infrastructure in these weather events. The Philippines, located in Pacific typhoon belt, faces frequent tropical storm, but experts say rising global temperature are making these storms more intense and destructive. In the recent years, typhoon brought unexpected mountain in rainfall that is increasing the risk of flooding. The government meanwhile has been working to mitigate the effect by dispatching emergency service and engaging in military rescue operations to coordination with the emergency humanitarian organization. However, long-term solutions remain challenges. They need better flood protection, improved urban planning, and climate change resilience may issue more urgent to note there. In Bohol province, one man was killed by fallen trees. An emergency service representative Danila Atetu said by elderly person have downed in the Leyte province. State Meteorological Service specialist Sherman Warlia said 3 on fire. More storms could be expected by the end of December. Scientists warn that the storms are becoming more frequent due to climate change caused by the human activity. The Philippines is in a shock after Typhoon Kalmagi, known locally as Tino, swept through the northern central region, bringing destructive wind, torrential rain and widespread flooding. The powerful storm made landfall on a Tuesday night near Aurora province, accompanied by sustained winds of up to 113 km on hour and gusts of winds to 116 km on hour, and then swept westward across Luzon. In coastal town, houses built on a light material was destroyed, power lines were downed and roads were submerged. Raising concerns about the flood security in the coming month. In the city such as capital Manila, traffic has come to standstill and businesses are closed as people struggle to survive the flooding. Meteorologists point to climate change as the important factor of intensifying of these weather events. The Philippines, located the Pacific Typhoon Uwan, faces frequent tropical storms, but the experts say rising global temperatures are making these storms more intense and destructive. In the recent year, typhoon brought unexpected amounts of the rainwater, which has increased the risk of flooding. The government, meanwhile, has been working to mitigate the effects by disrupted emergency service engine to military in rescue operations and coordinated with the International Humanitarian Organization. However, long-term situation remains a challenge. To need the better flood protection, improve urban planning and climate change resilience may issue in more urgent than ever. As the country is still recovering from the previous natural disaster, the community's cycle of recovery reconstruction, the putting on the strain of recovery and the local communities. For millions of Filipinos, it is not a question of, but the when expect devastation flood is occur. Witness described the scene of terrifying and even inspiring at the same time. Water flooded and polished marble floors. Priests rouge flooded like livers and huge umbrellas set up to shade, and pilgrims shocked in the strong winds. Many worshippers sought shelters in surrounding corridors, holding to each other a thunder rumble between the heritage. Several neighborhood cities, including Jeddah, Taif, and Al-Liv, also experienced heavy rain and minor flooding. The farmers in the storm are catastrophic, said agriculture lecturer Francisca Laurel Jur. We have provided immediate assessment to support for recovery. Meteorologist of Pagasa said Typhoon Kalmagi quickly gained strength over the Philippine Sea due to warm ocean waters and a phenomenon increasingly linked to climate change. Storms like Tino are becoming stronger to weather, said Pagasa forecast Ana Santos. President Fernando Marcos Jr. called to calm and resilience, providing swift assistance to the affected province. Our priority is to save lives and restore essential service, he said to the television address. As the storm moved over to southern China Sea, forecast warned to continue heavy rain in western Luzon and possible new flooding. For millions of people in the Philippines, recovery Kalmagi is just beginning. storm system was battered much of Europe, leaving a trail of destruction, transport, chaos, and a human tragedy in this way. The storm, which brought hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, and heavy snowfall in high areas, has affected countries such as France, Germany, Poland, Austria, and Balkans. In a Paris, wind knocked down trees and damaged roofs, while trains and flights were delayed. In Bavaria, Germany, hail and strong gusts battered small towns, breaking windows and damaged vehicles. The Netherlands reported severe coastal flooding as waves to 6-meter high hit decks and pods. Authorities confirmed at least a dozen fatalities across the continent, including drivers caught in the flash flooding and persistent stuck by fallen debris. Hundreds of thousands of homes were left without power overnight, and emergency service received thousands of calls. Witnesses described terrified conditions. The roof of our town was lifted up and a few away in the where paper said Nowak in the South Poland. In Austria, sky reports were cut off by avalanches, trapped tourists and the staff. Several people suffered minor injuries from the blocking glass and the fallen branches. Rain traffic forced severe disruption, with the Deutsche Bahn warning delays could continue due to overnight repair work. Agriculture damage is extensive. Hail destroyed it was the vineyard, cornfield, and the orange. Local farmer John Mayer said they lost nearly its entire harvest. In the 10 minutes of year work wash, insurance companies estimated damage will exceed 100 million euros. Power outage occurred in several towns due to lightning trucks and hail damaging power lines. In Bavaria, some school and public institutions remain closer to structure damage assessment and safety inspiration. Climate scientists point out in the phenomenon highlighting Europe's increasing vulnerability to extreme weather. Hailstorms to magnitude were one of the rarer, state climate scientist Dr. Catherine Hoffman, but his global warning process the emergency in the atmospheric increasing making storms more intense. After the storm passed, the sky cleaned, a relative and surreal landscape is gleamed in the ice-shrouded glass. The resident, it was night in terror and astonishment. The chilling reminder of even in one of Europe's most developing countries of the power nature can strike without warning. A powerful storm swept across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction. Storm spanned to Germany, across and the offshore. It is one of the most destructive weather events of the continent in the last decade. In France, coastal towns in Brittany and Normandy were hit by winds up to 115 km/h, which tore roofs, houses, and forced ferry service to be cancelled. In Paris, sudden flooding inundated roofs and led to closure to some section of the metro. It felt like the city was flooded in a matter of minutes, said passenger Julien Maru when they through waist-deep water. Southern Germany, including Bavaria, reported hailstorms the size of a golf ball that smashed car windows and damaged crops. Authorities confirmed several injured, and insurance companies warned that damage in agriculture could run into tens of millions of euros. Spain and Italy also experienced chaos. The streets of Valencia turned into rivers after 100 millimeters of rainfall into 2 hours. In Sicily, passed strong gusts of winds and left thousands of people without electricity. The storm raged all night, recalled Sicilian resident Lucia Romano. We couldn't sleep, afraid that the roof might collapse. Schools were ordered to close. Authority urged residents to stay indoors. Witnesses described a terrifying scenes. It was like a river rushing down by our streets. Cars were flooding and shops' windows collapsing in a matter of minutes, said Joe Martinez, a shop owner in central Valencia. Farmers in the surrounding area reported catastrophic losses with the citrus grove and the rice fields devastation of that flood. Local authorities have declared a state of emergency, and the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was pledged immediate assistance. The government stands with Valencia, will rebuild and support all families affected. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying. Extreme weather events in the Mediterranean were warnings increasing the risk of torrential wind and flash floods in Valencia. The storm has left a trail of destruction and urgent questions about preparedness of the storm to come.
Caralho, que loucura, mano.